Trump administration is a big part of the catalyst that is shifting the narrative, the greater narrative. But overall, we see a good amount of Bitcoin adoption at the nation-state level. El Salvador, of course, has started early. And last year, we saw Bhutan was revealed to be a holder of Bitcoin through mining. And there's a number of other large entities at the nation-state or sovereign level that are accumulating that are not very public about it. And they might be doing some other projects too, like mining projects too. So overall, it's accelerating. I think we like to say slow, gradually, then suddenly. And I think this is the case for nation-state adoption. It's going to pick up very rapidly. And again, people are looking at the US very closely to see what the Trump admin will do. And if they do implement a strategic reserve of Bitcoin at the nation level, then I believe we'll see a massive piling on of everyone else.
Year is going to be about sovereign digital asset Bitcoin adoption and digital asset frameworks. So what are you looking forward to most in 2025 over kind of your expectation?
I think the most exciting thing for 2025 is seeing Bitcoin go to 1 million. I believe the previous bull runs were all muted through things like fraud, like FTX and whatnot. And we should be well over 100 already. That's what I'm going with. So the other bottleneck that's been removed is the onboarding of capital into Bitcoin. So previous cycles, the bottleneck is exchanges, being able to go through KYC and onboard onto exchanges. And that was when they would get overloaded with the backlog of months. But now with the ETFs, anybody can access a Bitcoin derivative. So that removes that bottleneck for capital flowing into Bitcoin.
Sure, it's like a layer 2.
Yeah, it's like a layer 2. Don't tell Blockstream. But it's a way for money to come quickly into Bitcoin. And I don't think it's fully played out yet. So if you look at things like the COVID crackdown and lockdowns and all that, the effects of that didn't play out for 2 to 3 years. And the ETFs are another major inflection point. And we're only a year after that now. So I think this year we'll start to see people come to that realization that, one, they need Bitcoin. And the market will see that there is no bottleneck preventing TradFi capital from flowing into Bitcoin. And we're seeing more demand for Bitcoin from all sectors, nations, corporations, etc.
Funny that only Bhutan and I think El Salvador had actually acquired Bitcoin. The rest had all acquired Bitcoin through seizure. So I wanted to ask you a question at that time. I didn't get the chance, so we had to bring you here. But the question is, why aren't there more countries?
I think there are, but they're probably not disclosing. If you look at the case of Bhutan, it was only through, I think, the Celsius claims that they were revealed to have crypto assets. And if that didn't come out, then we still wouldn't know today that Bhutan has this big mining operation and $1.3 billion worth of Bitcoin. But I think it takes a lot of effort to start a strategic reserve. It's easier to seize it from proceeds of crime and other ways, but to actually sit down and say we're going to buy Bitcoin is a conscious decision. And I think other than El Salvador, we haven't really seen that yet, at least publicly. So it's just a difficulty in crossing that barrier. And like we talked about before, there is this perception that it's risky to go into Bitcoin. But I think that perception of risk is starting to become kind of swinging the other direction now, that it is risky not to get into Bitcoin, especially with the Trump admin trumpeting all the benefits of Bitcoin and all the senators talking about it.
So do you think what's keeping other countries from kind of announcing this is more, or doing this is more inertia? Or do you think it's pushback from maybe kind of supranational, international organizations? Or both?
A little bit of both. A little bit of category A and category B. So I think we saw today in the morning, the Czech Republic Central Bank is going to put a vote to putting 5% of reserves into Bitcoin. And that was not actually the first one. We had engaged with the Central Bank of Suriname, talking with them over a series of months to put 1% allocation. But that was nixed after the World Bank paid them a visit. So I think there are cases where a lot of these countries, they're not fully sovereign and they have these supranational forces pressuring them not to touch Bitcoin. But then the other part is maybe there are countries that are acquiring and they don't want to trumpet it to the world and say, we're buying so they can keep buying more.
What are they most interested in? Are they interested in Bitcoin and are your conversations about building up a strategic reserve, or is it about a digital asset framework and kind of the things that Fernando and Nina have both touched on about, rebuilding their capital markets and giving them a technological upgrade so they can compete better with more mature markets?
We're on a call with some people from a city in Asia, and they're interested in everything under the sun. And they even wanted to bring in blockchains. And we kind of tried to steer the conversation more towards Bitcoin. But it's very early. You'd think that people would understand what Bitcoin can do and the path forward, but it's actually not. So I think we are very early still. And one of the kind of confounding points is they're interested in banking the unbanked or bringing more financial freedom. But then on the other hand, they say, well, okay, how do we regulate this thing? And I kind of say, like, if you could regulate things and bring people into the financial system, you could just give everyone a bank account. You don't need Bitcoin. And then they kind of start to realize, okay, well, maybe we're approaching it the wrong way. But this whole talk about financial freedom doesn't really jive with, we're going to regulate everything and KYC every single person, because if you could have done it, you would have done it. There's a line in The Social Network where I think it was like Mark Zuckerberg or someone asking the Winklevoss twins, like, if you would have built Facebook, you would have built Facebook. So if you could have financially included everyone, you would have done it already. So you don't need Bitcoin. So I think it's just a matter of steering the conversation in the right way and bringing the knowledge that we have and pushing that narrative that you can bring about financial freedom, but you have to realize that there are certain things that you won't be able to do, and that is regulating money.
In the US, we've got talk of a national digital asset stockpile. And are we moving in the right direction? Like, what are your thoughts on this? What do you think is going to happen with the US? And is this kind of the right direction?
I mean, you can't be a Bitcoiner and be against the free markets. And I think the market will ultimately sort itself out, and these things will trend to zero over time. But it's a mixed bag. There are positive developments, like the talk of the Bitcoin reserve, which now sounds like...
Is it a Bitcoin reserve?
Well, now they're saying digital asset reserve. So they're trying to be inclusive of all the altcoins, right? And be diverse and equitable and inclusive. And you can make of that what you will. But I think the only thing you want in a strategic reserve is digital gold, which is Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So I think it's an interesting time, and we'll see where things go. And there was a big backlash against XRP, Ripple pushing for inclusion of their token in the reserve. And it's really up to the government. It's like an IQ test at this point. Are they going to do the right thing or the wrong thing? And hopefully they follow El Salvador and stay Bitcoin only. But it's an interesting time, and I don't really know which direction it will go in.
So BlackRock has become kind of an aggressive supporter of Bitcoin and security tokenization overall. Last week, we saw Larry Fink had comments that he wanted to push the SEC on allowing tokenization of equities and bonds. At the same time, we had some kind of high-profile market commentators also say from the US-based, that work at Bloomberg, saying that security tokenization is maybe not in any way beneficial or innovative. So I wonder, like, who's right? Is it Larry Fink, or is there nothing here? Are we kind of wasting our time with Bitfinex Securities and the AAB and the Senate?
Well, I think there is something there, and it's a return to kind of bearer bonds, and that's how I look at security tokens. It's going back to being able to have a piece of paper and it's mine, and I can trade it peer-to-peer if I want. So I think there is something there, and then there's additional benefits, which I heard you talk about earlier, which is 24/7 trading. The new nature of this security is that you can't naked short, and with the centralized system, you can have naked shorts. You can stop runs like the GameStop run up, right? Like, they control the whole system. So I think there are controls in place that security tokens bring to the market, and it is a benefit. So in this case, I would agree with Larry Fink. The challenge has always been the liquidity pool, and we'll see. I think a big issuance, like a volcano token or something, could drive and be that catalyst.
For example?
But yeah, for example, you need something really big, because right now most issuances are very small, and the market is still very fragmented. There is Bitfinex Securities, there's a couple other ones in the US, but they're all very illiquid and very small. But if you can get something really big in Bitfinex Securities, for example, then I think that is the catalyst to trigger the market. Or maybe BlackRock does it. I don't know. But everything's up for grabs again.
Optimistic view of this. Do you think that like Bitcoin is kind of like a Trojan horse where you buy it, you make money, number goes up, and then as it goes up, you understand it better and you kind of embrace the values behind Bitcoin? Do you think that will happen with the ETF investors and these institutional investors? And I see there's an application in for in-kind redemptions and subscriptions for Bitcoin. Do you think this ultimately could be kind of a product that leads into people understanding Bitcoin more? I think right now in the US and probably most mature markets, people only see Bitcoin as digital gold. They haven't priced in like peer-to-peer electronic cash at all. Do you think that can kind of happen?
Yeah, definitely. It's an access point for a lot of people. And a lot of people that may not have been interested are now getting interested to dabble in Bitcoin as a security, as an ETF share, or as MicroStrategy. And then once they understand a little bit, they see, okay, this is a real thing, and they might get a wallet. They might download Aqua or something and buy some real Bitcoin, and they'll just go down the rabbit hole. I think the entry point for most people was, okay, this looks interesting. Either it was to buy drugs or to play with some digital money or something. But you don't just get into Bitcoin from day one thinking, okay, it's sound money and I'm interested in sound money.